Okay, there we go. We have recordings running on 2 computers this time, so we don't lose the recording, hopefully. Welcome, everybody, to the Sunday night call. Tonight's presentation is being done by Team 2530 Inconceivable, who have very graciously agreed to come on by invite to tell us all about their team and share their story and talk about whatever it is that they want to chat about tonight. I'm very much looking forward to this and some updates for upcoming weeks. We will not have a call next week because it's Mother's Day and you should all be taking out your mothers for dinner. And then the weekend after that, I can't remember what the topic is. We have one topic coming up about, I forget what it's called, but like talking to your legislatures and stuff and your the community people, I think. But then we have 2 additional get to know our teams. And now I don't remember what the 2 teams are. But we have 2 more of these sessions of get to know my team coming up. And then we'll be done for the year or for the summer. And then we'll plan to resume in October. So keep an eye out on the emails going forward for more sessions like this. And I got a really positive response from teams that we handpicked and invited some teams based on some survey feedback. And almost all of them said, yeah, we'd love to do it, but we only had 2 slots left. So we'll be reaching out to those teams in the fall, and hopefully this will be something that will be more and more of in the fall because these are really great sessions. I enjoy them. All right, so with that, 2530, the floor is yours. Take it away.
Jackie?
Oh, yeah, okay. I'm Jackie. I'm from Team 2530 Inconceivable. I'm a senior. I'm the business captain, and I've been on the team for 2 years.
I'm James. I'm also from Inconceivable. I'm a senior. This is also my 2nd year on the team. And then I do some scouting and programming stuff. Yeah. And then I figure we should have Finn, Dr. B, and Arden also introduce themselves.
Okay, I'll say I'm Dr. B or Brian Barthelme. I actually love this team. We should have started with the 5, 10, 15, 20 because that's how we always start everything. And that's both our spirit and how we make people pay attention. So 5, 10, 15, 20.
25, 30.
Very good. Okay, good. Thanks.
Okay, I guess I'll go now. I'm Arden. I've been on the team for 3 years now. Yeah.
Okay, Finn's having mic issues, so.
Oh, okay. I'll move to the next one.
Okay, so just some quick facts about our team. We're based in Rochester, Minnesota, so it's about like an hour and a half southeast from the Twin Cities. It's also where Mayo Clinic is located, so there's a lot of medical industry surrounding our city. We were founded in 2007, so we're 18 years old, so how old I am, older than some students on the team too. We have 38 total students from the entire Rochester area, so we have all of the 3 high schools and then some of the middle schools, and we all come together and we meet in a middle school shop from like in the evenings, weekdays, and the weekend. We're student-led, so we have around 7 student leads that plan our season and just make sure everything is running efficiently and people know what they need to be doing. We have about 15 adult mentors who help us out, so they're there to make sure that we don't hurt ourselves and to help guide us through processes we're not familiar with. Since we're from all of the schools in Rochester, we're part of the Rochester Public School District, and they help supply like busing, some transportation, and then also our shop. So we meet in one of the middle schools. For our budget this season, it was about $50,000, including the not including worlds, but including like the robot, machinery upgrades, ordering materials, and just general upgrades. Our whole team is based off of the Princess Bride, so that's why we're called Inconceivable. So like everything from our robot name to our pit setups to our shop is all Princess Bride themed, so we shape our team culture around the movie. Yeah, and then a picture on the right is us with Yoji at Worlds.
Yep. Okie dokes. So here's a pretty in-depth diagram of how we kind of handle our team structuring. So everything for the most part falls under robot, and then like game/strategy, which is really like the competition, like management of competition sub-team. And then a lot of stuff under business. We don't have to look too in-depth at this, but it kind of helps you see how we organize things and how we keep everything managed so that we can flow somewhat efficiently. And then we can also assign like different student leads to these sub-teams to keep track of how everything is moving. Oh.
These are some of our stats over the years. So from like 2018 to 2020, we were like progressing upward, and then COVID hit, and then we lost like half of our students because you can't really build a robot online. But rebounding after that, since 2020, we've been on a steady trajectory upward. So last year we gained 13 new students, and this year we gained 18 more new students. So we were really trying to integrate them into our team and have them learn a lot of the skills before build season.
Yeah. So with that influx of students, well, firstly, our Worlds qualification and the crescendo season, as you can kind of see here, we had 18 new students. That was relatively big for us. The qualification alone like got us a lot of news presence, which was really nice. And then there was spread through like word of mouth. And then we also give presentations at different places. They're like robot demonstrations. We drive our parade robot around in like a parade we hold in Rochester. If you don't know, we also run like a summer camp for I think K3 through 8. So all of those things allowed or led to a large number of students joining the team this year. And with that, we kind of had to onboard all of them. So we have our own in-house training programs. So we have Academy, which is an introduction to programming. It's focused mostly on Java, and then kind of introduces them to the WPI like framework. And then there's also Academy, which is for like an introduction to Onshape. There's figuring out Figma. We also have our in-house like machine training, because we don't want everybody playing with these sharp tools without knowing what they're doing. And for the most part, well, these are entirely student-led, with the exception of machine training, because don't want to play with that. And we also assigned students to each new student that joined. So we had 18 that persisted with us. We probably had, I don't know, maybe around 25 students that had joined total this season, and then some of them trickled off. So we assigned students to mentor each of those students, keep tabs on them, make sure they were in the sub team that they wanted to and being productive. And then as we moved into the competitive season, we assigned like the new students got assigned mentors, so that the students who had previously been mentoring them were able to move on to working on the robot and other various tasks.
So this is kind of an overview on how our team is structured and all the different sub-teams that we have. In the center, we have fundraising, because we make sure that everyone on the team contributes something towards fundraising. So that could be like writing a grant, writing a thank you note, doing a presentation at like a potential sponsor or a recurring sponsor, and just other tasks like that can help us with fundraising. But in terms of like technicals and non-fundraising, we have CAD, which we use Onshape, and they basically do 3D modeling and they design the parts. They also like envision the final product. So they like do all the dimensions and all of like the proper positioning. And once they're done with that, they'll give it to As You Wish. And As You Wish is a sub-team that manufactures the parts. So they'll use like lathes, mills, drills, and CNC and other tools to produce the product. and they'll give it to assembly and hardware, which will like assemble the pieces, and then they can use CAD as like a guideline of what the part is supposed to look like. But they'll really like do that for everything to create like the final robot and the final product. Once the framework is all done, electronics will wire the robot and make sure everything is connected and functional. Programming will just like we'll do our autonomous, our teleop, and make sure everything is moving correctly and it's in like the right orientation and it's working the way we want to work. Business, we handle like logistics, we handle outreach, we handle some event submissions. We also do like media and marketing, and we also help students complete their fundraising requirements. We have more during like when competition season gets closer, we have scouting and strategy teams. So scouting will like watch a bunch of matches, like record data, record some strategies used. There's some overlap between the two sub teams, but they'll basically collect a bunch of data, and then strategy will take the data and make conclusions out of it. They'll also figure out ways like how we can optimize scoring and optimize ranking points to achieve the result that we want. We have a graphics team that designs our t-shirts, designs our pit banners, designs our sponsor boards on our robot, and like really any like graphic thing that you'll see in the shop or in our pits. Some things that we've done to like improve, we switched to Discord for communication. So we have a server for every single sub team. So like business has a sub team, programming has a sub team, hardware has a sub team, and then there's more like hyper specific like event planning and attendance and announcements, so on and so forth. You just like, it's easier to talk to people that way. We started using Onshape in 2017 to do our CAD. I believe there's a folder where we can put a bunch of our parts in so everyone has access to it. And then also, since we have so many team members, we have the opportunity to put in a lot of time a week, and we also can prioritize multiple parts at the same time. So it doesn't have to be one step, I do this, and then I do this. You can assign different groups of people to work on different groups of things, and it helps us save time. And they also put in a lot more time out of the shop to achieve the final product. I'm going to introduce Arden to talk a little bit about FMEA.
Yeah, so last year during the off season, we went to Jumpstart, and there we like heard the Team 4607's presentation on FMEA, and then we decided to implement that for the Reefscape season, and it's been really helpful. Like we've got a bunch of failures, and we actually have like a way to keep track of them, and keep track of what we're going to do.
Arden's had a microphone failure.
Yeah, just
Oh, no.
yeah. I don't know if we'll come back, but we've logged like over 100 failures, and then we have like metrics where we can like see, well, we can track why, and then like
Okay.
There you are.
My computer just crashed, so I'm on my phone now. So yeah, we like adapted some of their spreadsheet, but it's mostly just like the same structure that CIS's like spreadsheet uses. So it's been very helpful. Yeah.
There we are. Okay.
Awesome. Okay, so some new improvements we've had is like the growth of the business team. So this year we've had more students as business is their primary sub team. So we really want to grow and have more people who have business as a primary sub team. But since we have so many people, like compared to last year, we can like prioritize things, and we can just like coordinate what we want to do and what we want to prioritize. And then also we document every single like grant we write, every single, not email, but like something like a presentation, or we have like all of our documentation stored, so we can keep submitting things for fundraising, and also for like presentations wise, we can keep looking back at our team's history. We're also trying to incorporate every student to fundraise, so it's not just the responsibility of one or two single people. And then also we help out with a lot of the logistics, so like planning for our regionals and planning for other events.
Yeah. One of the other big things that's been growing in our team is our student leadership system. Right now we have 7 like team leads, and then we have a bunch of like sub team leads. And then obviously when there are like certain projects, something needs to be created on the robot, we assign like specific people to do those. So they're like project leads, sub team leads. Project leads, sub team leads, and team leads. And then so our team leads, weekly we have like actually right after this presentation, but weekly we usually have like an hour to an hour and a half meeting between us, working on what happened this past week, what's coming up this next week, just general things we need to cover, resolving any issues that might have arisen. And I think that's been really efficient. And then when we need to, we also meet in person. And it just generally guides the structure of our meetings, and we're able to like assign people to make sure that everything's being covered, which has been really important. Here are. And any luck on that mic? We'll give him a second.
Does that work?
Yep.
There we go. Okay, much better. Sorry. Since I didn't get to introduce myself, I'm Finn Barthelme. I'm a senior on the team as well. This is my 6th year on the team, and I focus mostly on mechanical and robot development side of things. Some of the things that we've developed in recent years that have affected our performance as a team is developments in our facility. So one of the main things that we've improved on over the past years is having an actual practice field. In the like 2022 season, rudimentary field elements, we just built partial field elements that weren't necessarily enough to test the full capabilities of our robot before we got into competition. The 2023-24 season was the first time we actually pursued making a half field, having a little bit of carpet, having an actual game element that matches the specification for the at-home field elements. And that really gave us a lot of good practice and helped us be a competitive team that year. 2024-2025 season was the first time we built like all the different field elements. We had a practice space where we were able to regularly construct practice field, run cycles comparable to the full length of the field, and that was really, really helpful. This last year, we were donated a carpet, which was really helpful because we could actually have enough carpet to mock up a large-scale practice field. And we also were very lucky to have access to space where we could set up that field regularly. And we built a full reef, we built a mock barge, a human player station, and that really, really brought us to the next level of being able to practice and test autos on an actual half field, which was really, really helpful. Another upgrade that we've made to our facility in recent years is the addition of more and more modern 3D printers. We used to have a TAS 3D printer that was really prone to errors and kind of a nightmare to use. We upgraded to 2 Bamboo Labs 3D printers, which has really smoothened our workflow from taking parts from CAD and having them in hand, made it much faster to iterate parts, print more parts, and just having 2 or 3 3D printers has helped us make a lot of parts, especially in last year's robot where we had a bunch of 3D printed parts. It was really helpful to have that capability of making a lot of parts and making a lot of parts fast. I would say the most significant improvement that we've made to our facilities on the robot building side of things is our machining capabilities. Over the past 3 years, we have gained 2 CNCs and also 2 mills and a lathe. In the 23 to 24 season, we built our first CNC from a kit that was able to do polycarbonate and light plastics, and that revolutionized our robot building process, being able to rapidly iterate on weird shaped plates without having to, simplify our designs to fit our manufacturing capabilities. In the 2024-25 season, we still had that same CNC, but we branched out into making more parts with polycarbonate and improving our workflow for making CNC pieces, and that allowed us to build a much more complex robot. As another thing that factored into that was our addition of a milling machine in our shop. That allows us to hold much tighter tolerances, and it's funny to say that actually the 2024 to 2025 season was the first season we built a frame that actually fit together the first try, which you'd think can't be that hard, but for us, that was a significant improvement, and that allowed us to build a robot with more complicated parts and confidence to know that we could actually build things that fit together without having to remachine parts a bunch of times on the drill press. That was really, really helpful. This season, we gained a bunch of new capabilities. We got a second larger milling machine, which is really helpful. We also, the most probably helpful part, we got a CNC actually capable of making metal parts out of aluminum, which we know a lot of teams have had that capability, and we've seen how that has brought a lot of teams to the next level by being able to make complicated metal parts rather than building things out of extrusion with COTS brackets and such. That really revolutionized their design process by being able to make both tight tolerance parts that are also structural out of metal, and being able to have custom designs with unique constraints that we can use to make a more complicated robot. Having that CNC, being able to make custom parts, has changed the way that we design robots for the better, allowed us to make lighter things, more complicated mechanisms, and reducing, again, the amount of times that we need to remake parts. Next slide, please. Not only have we improved our manufacturing capabilities, we've also gained more experience as a team and trialed many different techniques, as well as upgrading the parts that we have access to for building our robot. The most significant upgrade that we made that could be a partial explanation for our jump in performance between the 2023 and 2024 season was we finally got Swerve Drive. Especially in the 2023 season, we'd been kind of eyeing that for a while, seeing how a lot of robots that use Swerve Drive were much better at the pick and place game. And it had a lot more flexibility for being able to automate your robot, being able to drive better. We decided over the summer of 2023 that we wanted to develop Swerve Drive, and some of our students got together. We raised the funds for getting a set of Swerve modules, and we built a Swerve test bot in that off season, which allowed us to practice the programming and control systems for a Swerve Drive, which really made us confident going into the 2024 season that was a drivetrain that we could handle as a team and something that we could do at a competitively high level, comparable to other teams running Swerve Drive. We've used Swerve Drive ever since we developed that in the 2024 season and this year's season to great success. And we're really glad that we made that decision to go ahead with that. So much so that this year we also upgraded our swerve drive motors to Krakens as opposed to Neos to get that last bit of performance out of it, be a little bit better at driving, pushing through defense, stuff like that. Another kind of procedural thing that we worked on for our robot is battery management. Especially last year, we had a lot of issues with brownouts and just general issues with not being very happy with our batteries not performing as well as we wanted them to. So this year we did a lot of work on that. Dr. B, if you'd want to go into more detail, go ahead.
I'll give a whole talk later, but honestly, the battery is the central core of your robot. If you don't know that you've got an awesome battery going into a match, you're probably not going to make it. And knowing whether that's good or not before you ever put it into the robot is super duper duper important. So I will talk about that in more detail later. But honestly, when I arrived at the team 6 years ago, there was a pile of batteries and a bunch of chargers, and half the banks and the chargers didn't work, and nobody knew how old they were. So honestly, like taking inventory, doing testing, ranking how good they are, and making sure that you don't put a dead battery into the robot before you go into competition is super critical. It's not very hard, but if you put a dead battery into your robot, you're not going to compete.
Yep, that is something that has been really helpful. We've had almost no brownout related issues during matches this year. And when we did have them, there was at least one match that we had some minor problems with that. Thanks to our battery management process, we were able to quickly document that, take the battery out of surface and replace it with a fresh one that we knew would not have that issue. And it has been very successful and improved our robot performance and consistency. Another thing that we investigated and worked on in both the off season and also just during the season is integrating more computer vision into our robots to have a higher level of automation during both autonomous and during teleop. Recently, we upgraded our ecosystem to include Limelight 4s, which have been very helpful this year with increasing the consistency and accuracy of our autonomous. At the start of the season, we figured out that it would be a game that would require a lot of precision, especially to have really consistent autonomous routines. So we wanted to make that upgrade, seeing that new product came out, to ensure that we could be, running the best autonomous routines that our robot would be capable of. Another thing that we worked on during the season this year was making custom vision pipelines. We use a time of flight depth camera this year to look at the reef poles, as you can see in that image in the upper right-hand corner. And that allows our robot to auto adjust with its wrist to score coral more accurately. Developing that and adding it to our robot shortly after week 0 was one of the most significant improvements in our robot performance that we were able to do in the season. It wasn't anything mechanical. It was just adding that software to take a little bit of load off of our drive team and really increase our cycle time. We hope in the future to use more automation, more vision like that to improve our robot's performance without really modifying the robot itself. Another thing that we did this year to increase our performance and make sure we were on pace with many of the other teams is update our ecosystem of motors, gearboxes, power transmission components, and structural elements for building our robot. In the past, we've used a lot of 80/20 aluminum extrusion to build our robots. Our 2024 robot was built exclusively using that, and it's really strong. It worked really well. Our frame didn't get dented at all, but it is really heavy. And especially this year with the decreased weight limit, we realized that it just wouldn't be sustainable to keep building robots overbuilt out of 80/20, and that we would need to branch out into using box tube, thin-walled box tube, which a lot of teams used to great success. We saw that and we realized, especially with our new manufacturing capabilities, being able to precisely drill hole patterns, make gussets with the CNC, that would be a viable option for building this year's robot. And our entire superstructure of a robot is built out of that this year, and we plan on kind of gradually moving towards that in the future to be able to build lighter robots and moving away from 80/20. A couple of other upgrades that we've made this year, we We got new Kraken motors for our swerve drive, and we're also using them in our elevator this year, just to get extra performance and kind of a good change from the Falcon 500s now that those have kind of gone out of favor and are no longer able to be purchased. The Kraken is kind of our team's replacement for that, as well as we have some Neo Vortexes that we're using in some other places for packaging reasons mostly. We also ventured into the Rev Ion ecosystem of Max Tube, Max Blind, Max Planetary gearboxes. We've been using Versaplanetary gearboxes for many years, and especially in last year's robot, really found the limitations of those gearboxes in backlash, having the gearbox stages break, dropping gears on the floor, stuff like that. And we've seen a lot of teams find great success with the robustness and other good qualities of Max Planetary gearboxes. We decided we'd invest in that. We did so this year, and that has been really helpful for our robot's performance. As well as using Max Blind was a lesson we learned last year, that backlash is really bad and that we should do anything we can to mitigate that. This year, using Max Blind, Max Planetary gearboxes, new motors with tighter closed loop controllers has really helped mitigate some of those issues and been really worthwhile.
Alrighty. Venturing into some competitive improvements in recent years on our teams. First off, strategy. So in Crescendo, we basically had one person who watched like every single match and recorded every single autonomous that every single team had. And that was great, but having one person do it wasn't really optimal because it's a heavy workload, and she was up until like 1 a.m. every night doing that, which isn't great for any of our team members. So this season we developed, she and some other people developed an entire strategy team. I think, I don't know, the exact number is probably around like 4 to 6 consistent people. And so they're essentially like a very advanced version of match scouting for us. So they're, instead of getting quantitative data such as like how many coral did this specific team score, they're a bit more qualitative. They're like, they can mention how this team handles defense. This team's a little bit janky when they're put in this situation, or they perform really excellently in this situation. So they were fantastic because they also do like pre-scouting for our competitions, and they get us a lot of information that people who aren't as trained in match scouting wouldn't be able to recognize. And they also, because like members of that team are assigned specific teams to watch, whereas normally match scouters do like red 1, red 2, red 3. Strategy is able to watch how teams change over time and their consistency. They can spot breaks. They can see if the robot fixed itself back up in the next coming matches. Next up, in the realm of scouting still, we had Turbo Scout. So that was built in-house, mostly by one of our, a couple of people have collaborated, but for the most part, it's one dude working on it. I think right before 10K in the Crescendo season, develops the entire thing from scratch. And it's a really fantastic scouting app that we have. I guess really I can turboscout.com. Pull it up, but it allows for like selection of a scouter, and then we have pit scouting and match scouting forms that they can enter, and then everything gets shared into a Discord. Oopsies. Everything's sent to a Discord where we can view that data from there, and it can also be exported into a CSV so that Dr. B can play around with the data and do all of his fun things with it. So between strategy, the new strategy team, and then Turbo Scout. Oh, I guess the other thing about Turbo Scout that's really important is it's developed in such a way that it's really easy to modify. So if we want to ever add like new questions for a new season or something, they're all stored in one JSON file. And if you don't know what that is, it's just a file type that's really intuitive and really, you can just edit it straight in Notepad. And so that makes it really great for upcoming seasons where we can just use the same scouting app, change a couple of the questions, and it works just the same. So that's really helpful. But then between strategy and Turbo Scout, both of those have been really useful in one, match briefing, so briefing our drive team right before matches, and two, in alliance selections. So like we hold a meeting with our whole team right before the day of alliance selections, and I don't know, maybe 1 hour to 3 hours just going through every team. And Turbo Scout's really great reference. And then the data from strategy, but also just the strategy team members are there, and they're really great. They're able to provide information off the top of their heads, which is really important. Yeah, and then here's a screenshot just of like an example of the data that comes out. Obviously, so this is from strategy, so it's pretty free form. They can type like whole paragraphs if they want, or they can type a little bit. And then match scouters, it's more set what they type out, and same with pit scouters. And then our strategy team, alongside tracking all of those things I mentioned, they track autonomy, which is really helpful, especially in a line selection. If we're on the field with the team and they're like, we can run this auto, you can run this auto, we need somebody who can run a center auto. Well, then we can go through and we can say, oh, this team runs a center auto. And then the other competitive improvement, Finn, I'll let you add stuff on this, or Pranay if you want, but our drive team, this season, they were selected in off season, which was really big, or for the most part, they were selected in off season. So they were able to get a lot of practice, and they were also able to use last year's competition bot just to practice like driving around. Obviously the controls are different, but they can still practice driving around and working synchronously as a team. Last year they were selected during the competitive season, and there were tryouts, and then there was like a little test thing. So a rules test is also pretty important, so that we make sure we're not racking up fouls. Yeah. And then practices at each meeting. So during the off season, some practices, and then during the on season, I want to say after every meeting that we can. Sometimes robots undergoing mechanical changes, so can't run it. And then last year also got a fair amount of practice, but this year really big, tons of practice. All of them know each other and work really well together. And then as Finn mentioned earlier, the half playing field. So last year had a room allocated. This year we also have a whole room allocated to drive around. And this year we have a whole carpet, so it's really set up. Yeah, Finn, I don't know if you have more on that.
Yeah, I'll just say it was a decision that we made mainly last year, that we wanted to get our drive team started earlier, get them practicing earlier, and decided earlier to have a little bit more practice, a little bit more experience, rather than deciding them in the season. It was really helpful that we also had a half field, of course. We were able to even use that during the off season sometimes to get drive practice. And having that drive team settled earlier helped a lot with figuring out what our robots' controls would be, figuring out how well we all work together, really getting in the rhythm of going through matches, getting the robot set up, practicing cycles. It was also very convenient that in the off season we kind of had a hunch that it might be a pick and place game, so we ran a lot of driving drills just to get really smooth and controlled with our driving of the robot. Get the feel for a drivetrain with Krakens instead of Neos, how that works. It was very helpful in general, and I think it improved our competition performance.
For sure. So also kind of going off of competitive stuff, this was kind of an overview. So starting at 2021 and before isn't shown, but just know they were higher rankings, like further away from a lower placement. So in 2022 to 2023, we were placed 641 worldwide, 32 in Minnesota, and then we divided that by 3 worldwide, and then by 4. So last year was a phenomenal experience. That was first time. We were in playoffs for both of our things, but it's also our first time winning, especially as a first ranked in the qualifiers. So working with KnightKrawler, of course, and then 3018 Nordic Storm and King Tech, whose number I can't remember off the top of my head. That was a great experience. That was one of our first times working with a really synthesized alliance, who knew exactly what was going on. And that was also evidence that our like alliance selection strategies had actually been paying off and that our scouting had been paying off. Because we kind of went in there knowing what we wanted, we got, and then we went there, won, and qualified for Worlds for our second time, and then finished the season with our highest placement ever. Yeah, so that's 2024 10K. And then this season, also great improvements. So we finished 116 worldwide, and then fourth in Minnesota. Again, higher than we ever have before. It was another great time. We went to finals in both of our competitions. We came first, so we were first selection of the first alliance at Phantom Lakes and won that. And then in North Star, first of Alliance 2, I want to say. And then we went to the finals there and then lost to KnightKrawler. And that was, the season has also been great so far. Worlds was pretty fun as well. We met a lot of really great teams there. But all of these things were kind of like evidence to us that we had been making like big improvements and they had actually been showing just the culmination of everything we had shown prior in this presentation had been making really big impacts on our team. And then I think with like another decent season, we'll probably be looking at hopefully more people joining, more onboarding, all good things. Shit.
Yeah, so this is, we're kind of coming to a close of the presentation here, but just to summarize of what we want to continue doing for next season and then all of the seasons after that. For our recruitment and our outreach, there is a FTC team coming this summer, so that'll be fun. But we want to create the FTC team, the FLL team, and we recently purchased a new summer camp kits, the Rev Robotics FTC kits. So it'll be really nice for the campers to use them because our old summer camp kit was like falling apart and it was missing some pieces and some of the things were broken. So it'll be a really nice upgrade. And then we can use those kits for the FTC team this season. And then for our onboarding, obviously we want to continue gaining new students and recruiting new students, and we also want to continue passing down our knowledge that we've accumulated onto the team to the new students because no student is on the team forever and we graduate. But through our training programs, we want to make them more individualized and compatible with the students' schedules because sometimes students will like miss a day of the off-season practice and then they'll be behind when they come back and it's not as personalized. So we're going to try to make that more individualized and personalized for next season and just to maintain the passing down of knowledge. On the more technical side of things, we're going to try to practice more object detection, so meaning like more advanced autonomy. And then we also want to do put a turret on our robot, so we might put that on our parade bot or we take to outreach events. And then James went over Turbo Scout, so we'll probably upgrade some of the visual aspects of it and then train our scouts more in depth so they can have more in-depth knowledge and then also produce have better critical thinking skills. For business, we're going to be reworking our sponsor benefits, so hopefully that will give more incentive for businesses to sponsor us, and it can create more long-term relationships that will enable our team to keep the growth in terms of machinery and materials. Yeah, so that's it. These are all of our social medias and our email and our website if you guys want to check those out. This QR code is our website. You also can check that out. It has some team information on there. And yeah, do you guys have any questions for us?
I just want to point out, honestly, I've been on the team for 6 years, and the progress we've made with all the stuff that's been talked about in terms of CAD, scouting, business, build, testing, drive team, you know, everything has gone up multiple levels over the last few years. And honestly, it's mostly student driven. They're like, okay, we don't know how to do scouting, so how do we do this better? And a student builds a program that allows us to do that. And we don't know how to do metal, so how do we do that? Oh, we can't do that with the CNC we've got. Let's go find a sponsor and get a better CNC and figure out how to do aluminum. It's been really cool to be a part of the team for 6 years and see how that progresses. And I want to see what the next thing is, which, it's all actually, honestly, beyond manufacturing, is programming. And that's way above my brain. I don't know how to program myself out of a wet bag, but it's all about programming. The next level is getting a really mechanically sound robot, which we can now do, and then the programmer is making it do the cool stuff. So that's where our team has gone from like a janky robot with wood and match drilling to try and get the frame to fit together, to precision build and, okay, give it to the programmers, see what they can do. It's been a cool ride. It'll be interesting to see what we can do in the next couple of years.
Yeah, I'll agree with that. I'll also say one of the things that we're really proud of as a team is that we do all of our manufacturing in-house, and all the capabilities that we've worked on for manufacturing and building precise parts is in our shop. We don't, as nice as it would be to have a manufacturing sponsor, we don't, but we try and make the best with the machinery and the manufacturing that we have. All of the parts are made by students operating our mill, operating our CNC, and we're really satisfied with the progress that we've made in being able to make more precise and complicated parts, and also train students and give them those skills to make those parts. It's been a really good improvement over the years.
I have a question. So there are lots of teams in the state that consider themselves currently where you guys felt like you were 4 years ago. Do you have advice? And you've done a ton. I love everything you've said. You've done, and you listed off so many things that you've done to make improvements. Do you have advice for a team who feels like they're right now where you guys were 4 years ago? Do you have advice on where to start, or what you think has the biggest impact? If you could do just one thing, here's the one thing I would start with.
I'll put in my 2 cents. Honestly, getting the janky 3D printed CNC changed our world. We're able to prototype parts and then redo them. And even though it was only plastic, it wasn't great. You could dream it up in CAD and actually build that part. And getting a decent 3D printer that was able to, in an hour, build gear or build a part or build a cover or something other. The manufacturing capabilities, because we decided to do it all in-house, was key. Because if we only had, hand drills and a bandsaw, no matter what you imagined, you really couldn't build it. So having the mostly printed CNC, which is not a great machine, but allowed us to do HDPE and some polycarbonate, was a game changer. Then we said, oh, we can actually do this if we have a better machine in any material we want. We did Delrin, we did aluminum, all this other stuff. So a team that's looking at, how do I build a better robot? If you get a kit bot, there's only so much you can do to add on to it if you don't have the manufacturing. But if you've got the combination of manufacturing and programming, you can do pretty much anything. But not having a CNC and not having a decent 3D printer is super hard. I don't know how you succeed in the current FRC world without a decent manufacturing capability, unless you just send everything to send cut first. Yeah, and that's expensive, and it has turnaround time. We broke a part before week 0 that was really complicated, and we stayed Sunday and built another one. You just do it in house. You got to have that capability, though.
Yeah, I would second that. I think it's also, we're kind of lucky as a team that already did full CAD of robots, thanks to one of our mentors who got us CADing robots. I think as far back as like 2017, we were using Onshape. We were we were really lucky to already have that knowledge base and those skills to be able to design a full robot and do all the integration to make sure that everything would fit together in CAD. And then for us, the next big leap was being able to manufacture more complicated parts. I know I've seen a couple of teams still that don't do full robot CAD. I think that's something that was really, really helpful for us, being able to integrate all those parts and then be able to manufacture all those parts. If there are teams that still aren't doing full robot CAD, laying out of their robot, trying different designs, seeing how all those parts fit together, that's a big step to take.
So you mentioned you're doing Onshape. We used to do SolidWorks, and we do Onshape now too. And I think most FRC teams are probably doing Onshape, although some are still using different programs. One of the things that our team has struggled with, and I think we're getting, this year was the best, I think, of all the years that we've had, but we feel like there's room for improvement, is having 4 or 5 students that are each CADing parts. Do you have advice for how you manage that work in CAD so you can have multiple students building parts and then you bring them together, whether you're using branching or different documents, or can you share kind of your advice on how that works for your team?
I'd honestly say that we're probably kind of at the same point that you guys were, last year, the year before. We're just getting started with having a lot more of the collaborative aspects of CAD being used. One of the big steps that we've made, especially this year, is doing more of a kind of top-down design of the robot, starting out with the general layout of the robot, and then moving into more and more detail to the point where the general shape of the robot and the mechanisms are described pretty early on, and then you can split the implementation of those mechanisms into multiple different people making those, rather than kind of having a monolithic, making the robot as you go kind of thing, which has been more difficult to have more people working on that design.
Well, and having the different assemblies be, honestly numbered, like we have the 100 assembly, the 200 assembly, and 300 assembly, these things that are major components of the robot that each have a billion subparts, but you can have a student dealing with mostly the intake, or mostly the articulator, or mostly the drivetrain, and all the pieces underneath that in a single assembly that they can deal with, and that all rolls up to the master assembly. But having it organized in CAD in a way so that one student can be in charge of the drivetrain stuff, and if something changes, then we've got a spreadsheet that tracks what has changed and who needs to manufacture something, and what is that part number, and it's part 302 or whatever it is, based on the assembly that came out of and the part number in that assembly. And then version 2, if it's changed, that's a huge deal, because you don't want somebody building a part that's not the right version. That's complicated. Onshape doesn't really help you with that very much, but being able to have really a master assembly and sub assemblies and people in charge of each of those has been a big deal. We haven't had that till honestly this year, and it's been a big change. And you need that if you have a CNC. If you're going to be manufacturing parts out of aluminum, you don't want to build the wrong one, or not have built one that needs to be handed off to assembly. So that process is actually something that we've really had to come to deal with this year. And I heard at the Worlds, I went to their high level master CAD talk. It sounds like Cheesy Poofs has like the ultimate spreadsheet that I'm going to steal, because it's from what has changed to who needs to build it and get assembled is something we haven't quite mastered, but that's key. That's absolutely key.
Can we go back to, in your slides, you had the org tree, the org chart of all the different things that are in there. Can you share that with us again?
Yep, sure thing. Pow.
Yeah, there we go. So how many of those things are responsibilities shared by one student? And like that, if you assign one student to every one of those blue boxes, that sounds to me like that'd be, everybody would have a job. But I'm guessing that can you give us sort of an idea of, are these the tasks, or are these the roles, or what are these blue boxes?
Yeah, sure. So the blue boxes are just like an overview of like you could call them tasks, but we have like specific. We have another separate task tracker. So when we have like a specific task, machine this part, check on this aspect of the robot, do blah blah blah. That's where we assign like a specific student, and we say you do this. For the most part, this is maybe less of a literal overview sometimes. So for a lot of these things, we do have actual leads assigned. You can see the top 3, we do have leads assigned. But then we also have different like sub-team leads for some of these things. Like Arden's leading FMEA this year and risk analysis. So I don't know if all of these things we say somebody specifically assigned to. Most of the assignment goes through the task tracker. But then we also have people who like naturally just rise to these things. Like for our website, we pretty much have 2 guys that just do our website, and I don't think they were ever like officially like assigned to the website, but they pretty much just do it. This just lets us kind of visualize the things that need to happen. And if somebody has something, needs to do something, can always look here or in the task tracker.
So is this kind of like an area of responsibility primarily? So for example, if we're going to do buttons, Jackie is ultimately responsible for that and may assign that to someone under her responsibility. Is that really how this kind of lays out? Get it? I get it. So yeah, so if someone says, hey, who's going to be doing our pit crew training, that's going to fall to Finn to figure that out.
Mm-hmm. It's helpful. It's helpful for just seeing what's overviewing what. So then you might have an idea of where to go as well. That's a good point. Yeah. Got it.
Yeah, this is nice. I like this. I like this layout of here are all the things that we do on the team, and maybe the buckets are a lot bigger than all the things, but generally here are the things we do, and here's who gets to be in charge or oversee or be responsible for making sure that gets done.
Yeah, and I like this. I think I kind of want to use this next year as well to show to new students, because one of the things is like, a lot of times when people are thinking of joining robotics, they think when you're in robotics, the only thing you do is robots, right? Mm-hmm. But this kind of lets people know that there's way, way, way more to that, that you don't even have to touch the robot to be really helpful to the team.
And I didn't notice until right now that we have a duct tape administrator somewhere on the bottom underneath of support systems. That's really cool. I need to figure out who that is.
That's good to know.
You mentioned task tracker. What are you using for task tracking?
Yeah, I can probably pull it up. It's spoiler alert, it's a big spreadsheet. Not outreach, season leadership, work item tracker. That's what we call it. Not sure it's been updated too recently. But we basically organize things priority wise. We designate them to a sub team, and then we also have like a lead for the exact task. So Cash, like the year's high priority or priority. He's doing the sponsor board CAD, and then Catherine's also helping out because she's part of graphics and stuff. And then overseers, somebody who's not like directly leading it, but checks in. So while Lorelai's leading it, Arden can watch over, and Lorelai can always look to Finn for help. Yeah.
Yeah, task tracker was something that we really started doing last year. After week 0, we realized, this is crap load of stuff that we need to get done, and we're not going to remember all of it if we don't put it all in one place, assign people to own items, stuff like that. This year, we've also gone to actually making agendas for our meetings, actually figuring out what's going to be worked on a specific day. It's been really helpful, especially now that we have some days where we can set up our field and some days that we can't. And having weekly student leads meetings, really planning out what we're doing on the meetings during each week, who's going to be working on what, who's supervising, leading, also having 2 leads for each item. So if someone's gone, there's a fallback person who also knows what's going on with that. Really helps managing our progress and keeping everything on track.
Yeah, and for manufacturing, we have special views of this sheet or a different sheet. I'm not sure it's the same one. That for both, the as you wish, which is generally milling, more manual machines than the CNC and 3D printing. There's this spreadsheet which tells us, which sub team of the manufacturing does that belong to. What's the priority of the part, who has to do it, what materials it made out of, is it done yet, is it the CNC, is it 3D printing, is it the mill. So basically I can click on a button as the CNC guy and say, okay, what parts do I need to do today, and this huge spreadsheet filters down to just the stuff that's not done.
Yeah. So I made it in the initial kind of draft of the presentation. I don't think it made it into the final. But I think at least one of my favorite things, and probably one of the biggest things on our team, is just using spreadsheets for everything we possibly can. We use it for all of the parts tracking, all of the task tracking. We use spreadsheets for our leads, agendas. We use spreadsheets for our aligned selections. Just using spreadsheets because they just keep everything so organized, and it's so beautiful, and you can have different tabs. It's been really helpful at also having a reference. If somebody needs something to do, go look at a spreadsheet. You'll find something on there. Yeah.
What does your meeting schedule look like throughout the year? How often do you meet, and what time of day is your meeting?
Yeah. So we meet during competition season. It's 4 times. Well, officially it's 4 times a week. Usually it's in the past it's more, especially with the wacky regional where we're running back-to-back regionals. But so we meet Monday for 3 hours, Wednesday and Thursday for 3 hours as well, and then Saturdays were 6 hours. Now they're 4 hours. It's kind of iffy now that we're going into the off season again. And then before that, I think it's 3 times a week. So during our off season, starting in August or September, 3 times a week,
2 times a week, James.
2 times, thank you. And 2.5 hours each. For both of those, it was Wednesdays and Thursdays. We have, I'd say, iffy, probably maybe 30 people in a given meeting on average. Now that we're kind of drifting into off season, it's a little bit less, and then we have required meetings, then we have everybody. But with 38, 37 students, all with a fair amount of meetings, and a lot of people doing stuff out of robotics. So I think another thing that was really helpful was simulator. We got a working simulator this year, and the website and graphics and stuff and CAD, you can work on all of that out of robotics. So it's all of that meeting time during competitive season, at least 15 hours a week, plus however much you want to do out of robotics. So dedication was a big thing this year and last year and assumedly previous years.
You guys have blown away my theory that we can meet on Sunday nights because nobody else is meeting during that time. I see on your calendar that you guys meet Sunday nights.
We have, that's when we run our leads meetings.
Yep,
so
student lead Sunday. I don't know if they love it, but it's necessary to prepare for the next week.
23 minutes.
So it sounds like you're still meeting now at least 3 days a week. How has the last month been? How have you been keeping students busy in that for the last month when the robot's mostly done, the code's mostly done? How do you do that? What's it been like?
It's been a little bit hectic, obviously. Our spreadsheets are really great. They can only do so much. It's sometimes tough to keep generating new items. There are always things that we need happening. We need manual labor to set up our half field. Yes, Jackie, go for it.
Oh, I was gonna add, we have a lot of students do business right now. So as you know, business it's all year. There's no break. So we are taking the opportunity to have people write our thank you notes, and then also start cracking down on some grant applications and presentation opportunities. So no rest for the wicked. But yeah.
So it sounds to me like that means that your build people and your programmers, when they run out of things to do that are technical, they move over and start working on the business side and the business tasks. Is that fair? Is that true?
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm on programming for the most part. But this past week is mostly working on Autonoma, and you only need so many people on that, and I wasn't the lead for that, so I worked on like the KnightKrawler presentation and some other business things. And then I think like hopefully in the coming weeks, maybe like training people, honestly, before the summer. And there's also always things to look forward to. We'll have things in the summer. We'll have our summer camp. We'll have a parade. So there are always still things for people to do, especially I think the biggest thing is when you have a student who's looking for something to do. That's a lot nicer than when you have a student who's just sitting on their computer playing games. Stacy?
Hello, I'm with 2472 Centurions out of Circle Pines, and I'm interested to hear more about the summer camp you put on.
Jackie?
Oh yeah. So every year we have like a 2-week-long summer camp. One is grades 3 through 5, and one is grades 6 through 8. So like elementary to middle schoolers. Like every year we have like a miniature FRC game-esque, and our students from our team, they basically design a miniature game that's like easy enough for students who are younger ages to understand, and they build that, and then they like make rules, and then since it's 1 week long, they have I think like Monday through Friday to build it, and then Saturday is like the tournament where they can play to win. But we haven't exactly figured out what our game is going to be this year, but there's signups available. But our students from our team act as mentors to the younger students. So if they have any questions on how to do it, or they're just needing some guidance on how to build their idea and execute their idea, we're there to help them through that process.
Thank you
Yeah,
for
another
sharing.
thing with summer camp is in the absence of having like FTC and actual FLL programs in our schools and in our district, the summer camp has traditionally been kind of the on-ramp and kind of an introductory thing that gets kids interested in knowing that, hey, there's a robotics team. These are some of the things you do on a robotics team, introducing them to some of the concepts like gracious professionalism, the FRC style competition, stuff like that. It's a good introduction to gameplay, also some of the technical concepts. That's what we're kind of aiming for in future years, especially starting to use FTC supplies for that summer camp, getting more programming integrated into that, a lot more concepts that can be transferable over to our team.
Yeah, it's not only a source of income, but it's a source of future students, because we don't have FLL and FTC in the school system. So Finn, who's going to graduate this year, and Simon, who's new this year, are here because of summer camp. That's honestly how they're on the team, and that's why I'm a mentor, because I wouldn't have known anything about all this stuff unless Finn went to summer camp. So actually, it's a really key part of our team's culture and acquisition of new students and sustainability, and it's fun. The students get to run the camp. It's not mentors running the build a robot camp. It's students deciding what is the game, what are we going to do, let's teach these younger kids what to do, and let them have fun. It's actually a great transition from adults to students being the mentors.
And did you say you're running this with FTC kits? Is that right?
We will be.
Oh
Yeah.
What are you using right now, or what were you using?
Tetrix kits.
Tetrix is terrible. We use Tetrix and they're okay, but they're really bad. They're difficult and frustrating.
So you're buying brand new FTC kits. How many different robots? How many robots do you build? Because you said you 6. So you're buying 6 FTC kits. So I'm curious. We bought Lego kits last year, and we're hoping to support Lego teams in the future. But we decided not to buy FTC kits because they're switching over the control system not too far away. Did you get any type of guidance in terms of how long the control system you're going to buy this summer will last?
I think that was kind of less of a concern for us. Although we want to be able to start up FTC teams, I don't think we're necessarily planning on using all of the like 6 kits for FTC either. And just having that control system, being able to have more programmability than the Tetrix kits had in the summer camp is still a big step, even if those controllers will still be just applicable to the summer camp.
That's
And
true.
We replaced the control systems for the Tetrix kits with a very kludgy microbits system, which is a little tiny microcomputer that is able to communicate with another little tiny board. And they theoretically are very cool. You could use block programming and all kinds of other stuff, but actually was very difficult in real world to get to work. So even though it was better than just running a remote controlled car, we didn't use its capabilities, and having something that's actually programmable and can have an autonomous and theoretically, at least even if not technically what people are going to use for FTC, has the same technical capabilities. You can think about autonomous versus teleop was key to us. We were like, we don't want another just erector set with a remote control car. That's not robotics summer camp. We want something that's actually like a robot. So that we decided to go that path, even though it may not last for 10 years. The Tetrix kits, they were okay, but they're not very good. They're not great.
That's cool. It's good feedback. Does anyone else? I've been doing a lot of talking here. Does anybody else have any questions? Oh, good. Thanks, Ken. Ken, did you raise your hand? Maybe that was an accident. Anybody else have any questions? There you go. Go, Ken. Ken, if you're talking, your mic's not working. No, we can't hear you, Ken. My mic not be working. Yeah, probably. Guess not. Sure, go ahead and ask it in chat, Ken. Well, while Ken's typing his question, I have a question. So you talked about summer camps as a source of recruiting. You're crossing 3 high schools and junior high schools as well. Are you doing recruiting in the schools, and what does that look like?
Yeah, so our recruitment, it's mostly through like word of mouth. So you tell your friends you're in robotics, and then sometimes they'll get interested in like, oh, I want to do robotics too. We're also at like the club fairs and the schedule pickups. So we have like a table where we display all of the information, like all of our sub teams and like what we do. And then we have like a sign up sheet, and then we have introductory meetings explaining or like saying this is where we meet. If you're interested, come to this location at this time, and we'll introduce you to all of the aspects. And then I think it's like the first maybe like 4 or 5 meetings, it's where like you really pique their interest, and then they'll decide like, oh, this is for me, this is not for me, and they choose whether they stay or leave. But a majority of the students decide that this is really interesting and they want to have their hands in it and want to be a part of it. But yeah, school fairs, word of mouth, school club fairs, and then social media. We post a lot on our Instagram and Facebook too, so that also might be a way for recruitment.
And when we're successful, we try to get on the local news, which is not always successful. They're not always willing to come look at our shop and do a story, but actually we've been pretty good with the local TV and newspaper to get them to at least have a little blurb, which somebody gets their interest piqued and they figure out what is robotics and they come join. It's helped us grow quite a bit.
So Ken's question that he posted in the chat is, how do you manage your website? And I'll give you a little bit more insight into Ken's question. Ken is one of the students that manages our website for 2052. And we host our website in GitHub pages, and we do it all in raw HTML, CSS, JavaScript using Jekyll. So that's some background on where he's coming from to add some little flavor to his question.
Okay. I'll boot up a screen share real quick. I want to say somebody can confirm or deny this. I don't work on our team website. I work on the scouting one. I want to say it's also run through GitHub pages. It's do not under any circuit. Okay. Yeah. So we hold off the source here. I want to say it's basically all running through JS. Yeah, it looks like it. JS HTML. I think eventually, if we need, we'll probably have it shifted to like some kind of Next.js framework. Like our scouting one is, because that one's organized a bit better and it's a bit more adaptive. And then for various things, we also have like, Google added on, like the Google Calendar implemented so that we can, like, people who aren't technically proficient are able to just add things directly to the Google Calendar. And that makes life a lot easier for us. And then for like the scouting websites, we use like Mantine with Next.js, so TypeScript based. And that is pretty nice. I think the repository is private of our team website. I'm not 100%. Yeah.
So I am not familiar with Next.js. Maybe someone else on the call who's a programmer is. I'm a software developer, but that's not something I'm familiar with. But your scouting data has to be stored someplace. So are you hosting that on? Are you doing paid hosting to host that?
So okay. So we have the scouting website, and that's just hosted actually straight off of GitHub web pages, but that doesn't allow for like persistent storage really.
Right.
So you can't really see it over there. I have 2 Raspberry Pis sitting over there. And all of the data we get, you can still see my screen. Yes.
Yeah.
scout.com. So you go here, you go into PID or whatever, select a team, you type some stuff in, you save data, you hit share, and then you can download the files locally just in case there are issues. Otherwise, we have like this Discord button, and that exports it through a Discord webhook, and it's a little janky. The Discord webhook sends it as a like raw JSON in a server we have. I'm not gonna share my whole screen, but we have a server, and then there's that bot that's also running on the server, and that bot, whenever it sees a JSON sent in that channel, it downloads the JSON.
I get it.
Please don't hack us because it's a really janky system and very vulnerable. It downloads that, and then it stores all of it on that Pi in a directory, and then we have some slash commands that allow us to interface with that, so we can do like /view 2052, and then it organizes and gives us all of the reports, or we can just like make a CSV out of all of that data to look at it.
I get it.
So it actually is very cool that you can look at a particular team and get all the pit and all the match and all the photos that were associated with the team, or you can say, "Oh, give me a spreadsheet. It'll give me all of the match scouting data that everybody's put in that I can just paste into my crazy spreadsheet that has pivot tables and whatever to try and do scouting." Website, I don't understand at all, but the scouting thing with TurboScout is actually very slick, even though it's janky and using probably the Discord in a way it was not designed to be used. It's actually very cool how you can query its bot and get what information you need out of it.
Yeah. So I will give you. I admire your ingenuity in finding a way to get your data to the place where you can have persistence through Discord. That's clever.
Last year we had, I think the issue this year was we didn't have access to like a team credit card or something, and that's why we didn't just pay for hosting. Because at the end of the day, we're still hosting off the data on my Pi, just in an awfully janky way. Last year it was an all-in-one. The website was hosted, like we paid for hosting. The website was hosted there. It stored all of the data there. The website, you didn't just use the website to log information, use the website to store or to view information. And that was nice, but we didn't have that option this year. So this is what happened, and it's been working.
Not bad at all. Okay, so we got about 5-ish minutes left. Anybody have any final questions or any final thoughts they want to share?
Yeah. Something I forgot to mention during the presentation as we work on stream. So instead of like STEAM or STEM, we do science, technology, revenue, engineering, arts and aesthetics, and mathematics. So that's like primarily the reasons we have like business and aesthetics or graphics in the sub-team circulation.
I like that. So does that mean how involved are your students in the revenue aspect of the team? Is it on the front end with like mostly grant writing and sponsorship, or are you also managing finances on the back end too?
We're doing like a little bit of both. We do a lot of like the grants and like I think the emails you were saying earlier. But like with the actual like spending, we coordinate with the mentor, and then we give our input, and then we go up to like the captain, so like me, and then we'll work with the coach and say, hey, is this cool with you if we do this? Like, is it within like our budget? And then a lot of time, yes, no, and then the purchase happens or doesn't happen.
And are the students helping set the budget at the beginning of the year, or is it not? Do you not project finances that way, and it's based on the money that you've raised so far? How are you kind of making that decision? When you said budget, what does that mean to you?
Oh yeah, so well, we have like the money we fundraise now, and then we have like a goal starting budget. So for the next fall, we have like a goal budget of like 40,000, so we can go through off season, build season without worrying that we can't pay for our regionals. So we try to set a goal to fundraise, and then we do that during like the off season and summer, and then we make up for whatever we haven't recouped during off season and during build season, and then we just like keep doing it all year round so we can keep generating the source of income. And so we're never going to be like in the negatives or like really low.
Yeah, and I don't think the students set the budget, but they set the priorities essentially. We got very, 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 very strong messaging that the summer camp kits with Tetrix are not going to do it for the next year. So we need to allocate funds, and we had a discussion with everybody in the room. Here are the options, and the options are to keep what we got, to add to what we've got, to buy these 3 other different kinds of kits, and they're from $4,000 to $8,000, and what do we want to do, and what are we going to sacrifice, and how much money do we have? And we're not going to let the students just say, oh yes, buy the $50,000 12 kits of the coolest kit bots and just build a real robot from scratch in summer camp. No, you can't do that. But prioritizing what's important is the student's job, and their job is to also help us earn the money, and they're not ultimately responsible. The adults have to take the responsibility for the spreadsheets and the budget and making sure we're not underwater. But what our priority is and how much we're willing to sacrifice to do something like the new summer camp kits is really the student's decision. It's important for them to have a stake in it, and they have to run the camp, so they might as well decide what kits we need. So we chose the high end with those kits, but honestly I think it's the right decision. They'll last for years. They are really cool. I want to play with them, and that was their decision. I think that's good.
All right. Well, I am very excited about this presentation. Thank you so much for coming on and sharing with us how you run your team. Super informative. Love so much hearing from teams and from the students and sharing that information. So again, thank you. Fantastic presentation. And I think that'll wrap it up for tonight. So again, no meeting tomorrow or next week. It's Mother's Day. Take your mothers out for dinner. And then, or if you're Inconceivable, have your leadership meeting instead. And then the following weeks after that, we've got there'll be 3 more meetings before we break for summer. One of them will be a meeting talking about how to evangelize for your robotics team out in the community and with the governments. And then the other 2 will be get to know my team. So watch your emails for that, and we will see you in 2 weeks. All right. Thanks, everybody. Have a great night.
Thank
Good
you.
luck at the state if you're going.